Back in 2016, Jio completely changed India's telecom industry. Free internet, free calls, and within few years, several telecom companies either disappeared or became irrelevant. Today, another company is trying to enter India. A company that doesn't build mobile towers, doesn't lay fire cables, and claims it can provide internet directly from space. That company is Starlink. And for years, its entry into India has been surrounded by controversy, regulatory battles, and security concerns. Some people think Starlink could become the next big disruption. Others believe it has almost no chance against Jio and Airtel. So the question is, will Starlink kill Jio and Airtel? To answer that, we first need to understand how internet actually reaches your phone. Most people think internet magically appears on their phone, but that's not how it works. When you open YouTube or send WhatsApp message, your phone first connects to a nearby mobile tower, and that tower is connected to underground fiber optic cables, and those fiber cables connect the tower to the data centers and eventually the wider internet. So even wireless internet heavily depends on wire, and building the network is expensive. Companies like Jio and Airtel spend billions on fiber cables, maintenance, spectrum, and data center. So this infrastructure is the reason India has some of the cheapest internet prices in the world, but it also creates a problem. Imagine trying to provide internet to a village in Ladakh, a remote island, a mountain community, or a border region. Now things become difficult because telecom companies must build towers, even if a small number of people living there use them. Sometimes the cost of building that infrastructure becomes higher than the revenue that is generated from that area. This is why remote regions will struggle with reliable internet access, and this is where Starlink enters the story. Instead of building the internet from the ground up, Starlink provides the internet from the sky down. Thousands of satellites orbits above the earth. A small dish installed at your home communicates directly with those satellites. So instead of getting the internet from the data centers through fibers to the tower and then to your phone, Starlink works like you get the internet directly from the satellite to your dish, and this changes the economics completely. Because Starlink doesn't need a tower in every village. The satellite is already available in the sky, which means you whether live in Mumbai or a remote Himalayan region, Starlink can potentially reach you. And that's what made people wonder whether telecom companies should be worried. Now you might ask, if satellite internet is so good, why it did not become popular decades ago? Because old satellites internet was terrible. The biggest problem was latency. Latency is the delay between sending and receiving the information. Older satellite systems use satellites that was located about 36,000 kilometers above the earth. That means data has to travel enormous distance. The result was laggy video calls, poor gaming, and slower response time. Starlink solved this by placing satellites much closer to the earth, roughly 550 kilometers above the planet. Streaming, online classes, and gaming far more practical. For the first time, satellite internet became a serious alternative then instead of a last resort. This wasn't really a technology battle, it was a business battle. Think about it. Jio and Airtel spent enormous amounts of money building their networks. In 2022 Spectrum auction alone, Jio spent around 88,000 crore and Airtel spent around 43,000 crore. Together that's more than 1.3 lakh crore. Now imagine spending that kind of money and then seeing a new company enter the market through a completely different system. Naturally, telecom companies were concerned. The debate became even bigger because Starlink argued that satellite internet should not be treated exactly like a traditional telecom service. After years of discussion, India moved towards treating satellite services differently from traditional telecom networks. For the government, this was never simply about one company. It was about technology. Blocking Starlink completely would mean slowing down a technology that could connect some of India's most difficult regions. At the same time, government also had to protect national security and existing telecom investment. Eventually, Starlink secured major approvals and moved closer to launching services in India. But the story did not end there. Just when it looked like Starlink was about to launch, another problem appeared: security. Government around the world have started asking difficult questions about satellite internet. Who controls the network? Can services be regulated during emergencies? What happens during geopolitical tensions? These questions become even more important after Starlink was used in several international conflict zones. And because of these concerns, India has continued to move cautiously before giving the Starlink the final green signal. Now let's talk about something even more important, because this is where the real battle begins. Today, many Indian families can get broadband connections from Jio or Airtel for around 500 to 1000 rupees per month. Now compare that with Starlink. Customers may need to purchase a satellite kit costing roughly 33,000 to 34,000 rupees before even starting the service. On top of that, monthly plans are expected to cost around 3,000 rupees or more. Think about that. The installation hardware cost more than what many households spend on internet over several years. Now compare this with the United States. In America, internet prices are much higher than India and household incomes are significantly higher. For many Americans living in remote areas, paying for Starlink makes sense because traditional broadband options may not exist. But India is different. India already has some of the cheapest internet prices on earth, which means Starlink is not competing against expensive internet. It is competing against some of the lowest internet prices in the world, and that is much harder battle. This is where many people misunderstand Starlink. Starlink is probably not targeting the average Mumbai or Delhi broadband user because fiber internet is already available there. The real opportunity lies in remote villages, mountains, islands, border regions, and disaster-prone areas, places where traditional telecom companies struggle to provide reliable connectivity. For those users, Starlink could be transformational because they may finally get access to high-speed internet without waiting years for fiber cables or towers. So will Starlink kill Jio or Airtel? Probably not, because Starlink's biggest challenge is not technology, it's economics. Jio and Airtel already operates one of the largest telecom networks in the world. They have millions of kilometers of fiber, hundreds of millions of customers, and some of the cheapest internet prices on the planet. Even in the United States, where internet prices are much higher and incomes are also larger, Starlink has not replaced traditional broadband providers. Most people still use fiber or cable internet because it is often cheaper, faster, and capable of serving dense population more efficiently. And if Starlink hasn't replaced traditional internet in America, it's even harder to imagine it replacing Jio and Airtel in India. But that doesn't mean Starlink has failed, because Starlink is solving a different problem. It is trying to connect places where laying fiber cables or building towers is difficult, slow, or simply uneconomical, which means Starlink may not become the internet provider for all of India, but it could become the internet provider for the parts of India that traditional telecom network struggles to reach. And that is exactly why this story is so interesting. Because the future of internet may not only belong to towers, it may belong to the companies that can combine both worlds more effectively. I hope you learned something new from this video. If you enjoy this kind of smart business and industry breakdowns, make sure to subscribe and hype the video so that it reaches to more people and you can watch this video next. I will see you in the next one. Till then, bye.